Hello, and welcome to Mic Stand, a podcast by the Student Alliance for Nationalism and Democracy of the University of San Carlos.
I am your host, Chen Enriquez, with my co-host,
Denise Rosal. Our topic for today will be about how activism today is affected with the anti-terror law and how significant activism is for the youth. With that, we will be talking about hidden truths behind activism.
For this episode, we're honored to be accompanied by a former Kabataan Partylist from Cebu, spokesperson 2018 to 2021. Please help me welcome Sir Howell Villacrusis. Sir Howell, how are you doing today?
I am doing good. Good evening to both of you.
That's really good to know. All right, so how are you coping up in this really hard time?
When the quarantine started, it was really difficult because when you talk about organizing students and everything, you have to go to schools, you have to go to areas and places, and when the quarantine struck, bawal na mo labang-labang og places. You can't even easily go out of your house. So not only that, but at the same time, kay dako po siyang effect sa mental health sa people that you engage with and everything.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's been a hard time for all of us. It's been taking a really huge toll on mental health, especially with online classes going on around. And apparently, it's just really sad that we're experiencing this kind of time for us right now. We are actually going to take you to why we invited you here in the first place. Are you ready, Sir Howell?
Yeah. I alam ko tawag sir, you can call me Howell.
Okay. So
weird out ko.
I'm really sorry, but I'm gonna call you Howell right now.
Yeah, so Kuya Howell, given your experience, what is activism?
Well, mabuong bugo ko few years ang bugo na activista compared to a lot of people and a lot of fun. I'm just lucky nga ako inyo napili, so akong experience ang ma-share. For me, from the little stuff I know for activism, kay activism is the idea of it is being active, diba, when you hear the word activism. But
yeah.
Much more than that, aside from you being active, you are talking to people, engaging with people, integrating with the masses in order to help them become active at the same time. So activism for me, in an essence, kay lain kay mag-definition ko dito through the dictionary, diba? We should have just read the dictionary if that's the case. Kay ang idea niya kay mo activate kasi mong self personally as an individual. At the same time, you help other people become active too by making them realize unsa ilang rights, what they're supposed to fight for, what they are capable of, what they're supposed to be receiving, or what they're supposed to be experiencing as people. For me, there's only one form of activism, which is creating a genuine change that is for the masses and for the majority or the broadest masses nga naa sa inyong country and even the world.
I mean, yeah, that is really true, given that the Philippines has been basing, or at least has been living off of activism for centuries, ever since the Spanish Inquisition, and it's been a really important backbone for the entire freedom that we Filipinos now are experiencing.
Yeah.
How have you guys been combating, for example, the one in UP last year? How did that go for you guys to have that kind of experience, if you don't mind me asking?
It's okay. Go on. Well, for me personally, kay ako mangod when I decided to go into activism, kay murag I weighed in kanang unsa ka lisod or kibaw na taon sa risks and everything nga mahitabo na, pero mas na-affected ko with how it affected other people bitaw. Although nagapoy ko good nagapoy ka nang murag di po siya mahug na trauma, it gives you the jumps baka nang murag murag nay mula ba nga police car kay ko murag is this for me, char? Kanang manana ba, it gives you the jumps, pero mas na-worry ko sa sa other people who are really affected, kay naman sila nagpaabot raman sila sa ilang opinion about the terror law, how it can affect them, how it can be used to silence people and everything. Kinda in terms of combating it, the only way we can do is be cautious every time, magbantay lang jud ka pirmi sa palibot and everything, you know. It's difficult kay ang state na mo kay nag-attack nimo. It's not just some common criminal or something. Pero system na jud ang gakuha nimo ba? Imong ang nibangga nimo or something.
Also, if it could affect us like that, it could affect how much more the common people, right?
Yeah, at least probably siya like I still know people who still have nightmares na kay hadlok po to kay naman po yung like SWAT running at you with long arms kanay nana ba.
Yeah, all that is really really unnecessary.
Kana necessary kayo and napadjud to katong ako man to gigukod na nasa GMA nga ako video. Like beside me napoy guy ato nga game murag kana bitong i-actionan og dagan murag pa ni action og dagan ang SWAT padung niya murag kana bitong nang hagit nga murag unsa man ka pinaynana ba like while brandishing his firearm niya kay murag ano man ni sila kana ba so scary jud siya yeah especially katong pagkuman pa sa protest kay giatngan mi sa UP giatngan mi sa police and everything.
That was really scary. I was supposed to be there. If I was there on that very spot, I would really be shocked. I have like 2-3 friends who were part of Cebu 8 as well. It was like just really really sad to see them in that situation.
Yeah, hadlok to pero part man siya sa struggle. So these are things that we have to understand like ang pag-process sa ani ba kay dili lang bitaw siya mo i-process nga murag kanang di lang nimo i-validate yung feelings nga murag it's okay to feel that way blah blah pero dapat i-understand po nimo even within yourself nga murag yes your feelings are valid at the same time naay reason behind this nga dili lang siya valid but also you consider the political climate inana jud na ang politics sa panahon sa usa ka fascist nga government nga when they attempt to silence you kay kana inana jud sila mo og mga tao and everything kay para mas makasabot ka murag wala lang nimo na feel out of nowhere or di siya separate from society itself.
Yeah, I understand where you're getting at.
Given that though, Kuya, if I'm not mistaken, activism takes place in different forms, right?
Yeah, di man ka kailangan nga kung aktivista kailangan magprotesta ka pirmi. Although important jud ang mga protest to show that na people nga nag-support ani nga cause. That's one way of showing it, but dagan wag ways. For example, mo to communities, mo help ka sa community. Those are different ways to help. So I walk about feel no, maybe there are different forms.
But that was like a really interesting take on that, especially given Nick your experience, because I have been like active in the political scene. Like I've been following since Noy, but I have not. I don't know if it's still considered activism, where I'm just reading the news and then just talking my thoughts about it, and I haven't been participating in protests ever since. Like I still have yet to participate in one.
Yeah, basin kana lang sa siguro wala pa ka kita kuan ba avenue to usually man kay murag gihimo mo og tabu ang talking about politics.
Yeah, that one bitaw.
Yeah. Except for today siguro kay murag ning grabe man ka politicize at the time of the pandemic kay daghan na kay affected niya. Usually, for example, contractualization, it affects workers, but it doesn't affect the middle class. It doesn't affect the farmers. Landlessness affects the farmers, but it doesn't really affect the middle class. And sometimes it doesn't affect some of the workers, although connected na po na sila. So, murag nahimo siya fragmented sa utok sa mga tao when in essence, kay pareha na sila. But ang pandemic is, wala na siya facade nga fragmented ba? Like, pandemic, it just affects you all. So, there's something in common with everyone nga issue nga dako kayo nga giatubang nila. That's why I think that's how I see it ba moy ngano na politicize ug maayo ang mga tao at the time of the pandemic.
Yeah. The government has been trampling on rights, especially during this pandemic. Like we've seen the implementation of different laws that apprehended like individuals. Like let's say Maria Ressa, that incident was like it mind boggles you that a satire joke can get you arrested for on grounds that are lawless. And it's just really crazy without.
The weaponization of law, just like kanang terror law. I-weaponize siya para, to silence people.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of politicians nowadays, they're like trying to pass laws that just trample around people, and I don't know, it's getting concerning.
Yeah, kuan kanang ang mga tao ba kay dili pa kay sila mulihok unless directly affected sila. I mean, reasonably so, di ba? Kay wala umputan nig eskwela niya gitudluan ta sa eskwelahan nato nga. Uy, kung naina ning problema sa ubang sector sa inaning kuan kay dapat mo reklamo ka ani kay is dangerous. So tatudloy ginana. So as people, what do you talk about when to call out, when to call this out, when to complain about something, di ba? When to raise concerns about something. Kay as people, wala man tatudloy ana sa atong mga rights sa atong pag-eskwela. So how are we supposed to know nga violated siya ani nga law? How are we supposed to know what's right, di ba? When in the first place, wala man takibawon sa atong kuan, unsay rights nga naa nato dapat. So kana understandable man nga murag dili kay mo reklamo ang mga tao ani. And kana pod kanang maghimuhimo sila laws nga, for example, ang atong telecommunications utilities kay gibaligya ay gi-open to foreign market, foreign investors, 100% ownership. Ka-dangerous ana. Tugot ka taga China ang magtag-iya sa imong telecom, taga US ang magtag-iya sa imong electric grid, nga kung maglagot sila sa Pilipinas, pwede na lang i-off tanan, di ba? That's dangerous. That's scary.
Yeah, Ditto is probably like directly owned by the Chinese government, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it really.
Kung ana kanang kalimot kong say name sa Chinese telecom ana, pero nana sila ay history of mining data ba from people, like they really sell it. Nana sila history ana nya muna na-ban na sila sa US nya. Of course, i-allow gyapon sa government. Why? Kasi Dennis Uy man ang nag-push, who is a paid kuan. Who is
possible connections.
Nya connected po siya directly na Duterte kana.
Yeah, kana so I don't know. There are a lot of famous people who are like capitalizing on the fact that they're close to certain politicians. It's very dangerous, said, because a lot of these famous people have been calling people out in the form of red tagging, said, especially. It's really mind-boggling. I wish the education system was better so people would know more about what red tagging is and what it really is. What it really is and what misconceptions it has.
Usually red tag ramon lang mga kuan ang people. They use it to silence ba. Kay through the history po of kuan of red tagging, nagana na red tag niya after pila ka months or kuan kinamatay or gipatay by suspected state elements. So kuan siya, it's one, to silence you, example red tag ka para mahilom jud ka, para mahadlok ka, to intimidate you. Or second is to justify your killing. For example, i-red tag ka daan niya after kay na magsugod ng red tagging nimo, so gi-brand ng alas kuan communist terrorist, part ka of communist terrorist groups, blah blah, part ka sa CPP, part ka sa NPA niya. The next time kay patay na ka, so mo ka i-justify rin nila nga tinuod lagi na magani siya documents gidapat tungkol pagkamatay niya kan may nanak pa. Kuan gamiton siya to scare you or to justify your death. Pero kana for example, maybe for us middle class natay ka atrasan, maybe for example ako kung i-red tag ko, pwede man ko mo mangitag trabaho na lang, di ba? Pero kung ikay mag-farmer dira, ikay farmer nga wala kayuta, i-red tag ka, asa mo ka mabalhin, asa mo ka mangita ag laing lugar nga gawas sa pakigbisog niyo para makuha imong yuta. Kung ikay worker mo, hawa ka sa pakigbisog para makakuha kag saktong sweldo kay dili makabuhi imong sweldo sa pamilya, di ba? So, how about me? Ako middle class, will I murag pa-intimidate na lang ba ko? Yeah, depend kana pod, magdepende na po na sa unsay commitment nimo, unsay level of commitment, unsa ka ready mo take sa path. Although lisod siya sabton at first nga murag hadlok man siya, pero once you maka-immerse kag mga mga people, po ka maka-realize nga murag naman di ko akong support system, so ano mahadlok ka mo red tagging. Maginana ba?
There's also an article that I have read the many times red tagging was used. So nowadays it's easier for a person to be red tagged. I feel like this is an important question that needs to be raised, and for the sake of our audience most especially. But would you mind defining what red tagging is?
Well, red tagging is tagging legal activists as part of underground organizations or quote-unquote illegal organizations or part of the communist terrorist groups, which is dangerous because it blurs the line between what is our right, what is the right of the Filipino person, of the Filipino people, and what is illegal. Yeah, it blurs the line of illegal and legal. So it's dangerous for legal activists.
Yeah, I mean, there was this one time a friend of mine recommended a movie for me. It was like about farmers and how they were like fighting for land, and then they just went missing because like the land was about to be sold. And after a while, the main character just finds them in a backyard, all just dead. And I feel like red tagging has more of an effect on the really poor communities bitaw, for the farmers who just want to like live normally. And it's just really sad bitaw to see. Even the farmers who aren't actually activists, kaya ma-red tag yapon sila as like troublemakers, and then they just get arrested or something. It's just really bad.
Yeah. Mo siya na ng mechanism sa state to silence people kay once i-red tag ka, mahadlok naman ka. Dili na daw ka ma-appeal og bisag unsang activity sa inyong organization or di na ka ma-appeal og mga protest when in the first place protesting is your right. So kana ba blurring the line pa jud, like they just keep on throwing that towards people until mahog na siya believable ba. They don't even show concrete evidence. Kaya for example, kung nasa may proof nga kani nga person part of an underground movement, then by all means file it in court. Pero di man sila mo file sa court nga naman kay how many times have they red tag people niya ikato na sa court kay mabasura ra nga naman wa man sila evidence nga substantial nya kana good in the first place. Being ang mga kanang being part of CPP is not illegal kay wa na may anti-subversion law. Maybe kung part your NPA is illegal because that means you're carrying arms, but being part of the Communist Party is not illegal because anti-subversion law has been repealed. Pero kana good murag igo ra tan lahad lokon even kaning part ra og legal organizations kay hadlokon gyapon nila. So how are we supposed to exercise our rights then? Kana ba?
Yeah, that's very true. Like I don't know, people often mistaken an ideology with terrorism. Basta like kontra na gyud sa, for example, kontra ni Duterte, just like labeled as terrorism did so, and it's just really scary na gyud.
Yeah.
Fight against that.
Like label did so niya without even understanding that side ba. Dali ra kay label. Yeah, kana murag in the first place understand why they're kaning mga NPA na carries like arms. We have to understand that first kay para kibaw kaon sa pag-solve ana. Kay kana nag-carry sila arms kay galisod sila sa Pilipinas. Was layuta wala sila nalipay sa Pilipinas kay mura sila trabaho para makakaon para mo trabaho the next day kanina na ba. Dili worth living ang ilang life pa. So na they find another avenue kay para muduso sa ilang ganahan nga kabag-uhan. So that's why they took up arms. Muna ang roots sa armed conflict, which is grabe kalisod. Grabe nga kalisod sa Pilipinas. So why not solve that first?
Yeah, that's true. No one's focusing on solving the root problems.
Okay, kung nagyapon ang root problems, no matter how many kanang NPA you kill, di na sila mahurot kay namang gyapon ang rason. Kana ganing even before them ang hukbalahap ni gani wala pa ng ideology sa sa NPA, sa CPP. Na naman gani hukbalahap, na naman gani katipunan. Diba? Kay tungod na may kalisod, na may problema sa society. So how are they supposed to address it when even the government itself is the one being used as an instrument to oppress them? So asa man sila mo kana nahimo ang katipunan panahon sa Espanyol kay the Philippine officials nga naapod sa Pilipinas kay kuan pro Spanish. Di ba?
Yes. So it has been a very, very concerning, and the question has to be raised for the audience to understand further. So, Kuya Howell, what separates a terrorist from an activist?
Terrorists kay wala, they do acts of violence for the sake of ensuing terror, fear, intimidation, or just to send a message kay para kuan, like sometimes it doesn't even send a message, sometimes it just sends kuan, just gives fear kanina na ba. Yang activism naman siya objective, aside from ensuing fear, which dili man kana ang tumong sa pag-aktivista. Ang tumong sa pag-aktivista mao ang kuan, to push for genuine change for a nationalist scientific kind of system nga kuan, democratic at the same time, which aims to help people, give land to the farmers, decent working conditions and decent wages for our workers, and justice for those who have been justice for political prisoners, justice for victims of human rights violations and all that, protection of indigenous people's lands. Muman ang aims activism, which is very different from terrorism when you look at it. Nga ang activism naman siya genuine social change nga gitry og kabot, while terrorism just aims to instill fear into citizens' hearts. So naman siya daw difference. It's just that gitry lag blur sa state forces and even the government kay para na sila way to justify their attacks on activists. Like, why do they kill activists, which is illegal supposedly, pero now that they've blurred the line of activist and terrorist, now they can freely attack activists because of that. So dako kayong difference sa terrorist o aktivista, blur lang nila kay para maka-justify sa attack sa activist.
Yeah, it's basically like branding. They just even brand like rebellious acts against the government as terrorism when it's not even that way.
Sakto. Yeah, sometimes yun makauna-una ko nga murag na blur ba dyan ang line sa activista o terrorista or sa utok ay murag kaget ka sa point, like murag na blur ba dyan sila or sa utok na sa mga police kanina na ba? Ay sa utok na sa estado kanina na ba? Maka-question ka. Murag para nako di man siya man na blur. Kinsa man ni gi-blur ang lines kanina na ba? Sa common people who are the audience sa kuan sa state or wala lang gigo lang pang kuan ba para ako di man siya blurred, para kinsa ka ni blurred, kinsa ilang gi-blurran ani nga line.
I feel like ever since Duterte has been like kanang gipastrikto niya ang police and all that stuff, it just improved their morale nga. They probably just went to the police to like arrest people when it's not even that way, but like police are like keepers of peace unta, but they have been destroying peace a lot of times.
When have they kept peace though?
Yeah, but even given that though, like murag na may mga victories gapon despite the entire trials and hardships of activists. Na may mga victories, right?
Yeah. For example, kanang free tuition law pa lang, you can say that, you know, they signed it into law, but for the longest time, kung wala nang nawagan ang mga kay 1930s pa ko nag-call for free
that's
education.
a really long time ito.
Sa Philippines sa 1930s pa na ang CEGP ang ga-call ana. If I remember right, not really sure, pero si EGP ang nabawaan nga nag-call ana. Ever since before, and moingon sila nga gipirmahan na na karon, so ang current regime ang gadalaan ni, pero no, because in the first place they wouldn't have even noticed that call if wala na gidala sa mga students. Diba?
Yeah, true.
Kuan, for example, kana pong sa 8 hours of work nga ipakibisugan sa mga people in Chicago nga katong gi-massacre ang mga workers nganing call sila for 8 hours, or I think that was 16 hours nga ginaog to 12 hours. Muman sila ng panawagan na kay taas kay ang working time, although dili na local nga kadaugan, pero kana daghan kay na nadaog sa pakigbisog, daghan kay nadaog sa struggle, and it's usually our rights, or kana mga rights na to nga important kayo, gidaog mo na siya og protest. For example, pagpahawa ni Marcos, that was through activism nga wala lang nag-actively participate ang people themselves, but at the same time ni help sila og encourage other people to be part of the movement. So kana mo na siyang uban sa kadaugan sa aktivismo.
But like I feel so nga there are really a lot of people gyapon who are afraid to voice out dissent, and that's really understandable with how, like, especially given the current climate of things, given the victories gyapon. Pero what could you say man for the people who are afraid to voice out their dissent? There are a lot of people I know who are like closeted jud, pero like they openly talk to me about the things they hate about the current regime. Said, what's your message for them to voice out their dissent?
Maingon na kay where do you draw your strength para mastorya ka about it, even at a dangerous nga political climate? Where do you get the courage to voice out even when you're afraid? Now once you immerse with the masses, you integrate with the people, pumakita ka sa kalisod sa kinabuhi sa kay kita middle class man ta, so we could say that we are more comfortable, we are placed more comfortable sa society, so dili siya dali sabton. Pero kana if mo integrate ka with people, if mo makita nimo ang kalisod sa sa mga pobre sa Pilipinas, makita man nimo nga ngano makigbisog ka. And not only that, kana at first ang target man na ang igon sa mga policy sa government kay ang pobre. If dili na nila mapuga ang pobre, ang sunod anang igon kay mga middle class, diba? For example, train law, ang gasolina karon, if wala na train law, it's probably half the price, diba?
Beto.
Ang pansit canton pila na presyo, ang baboy pila na kilo. Usually di na ma-feel sa mga middle class people, especially if na ilang parents kay na saktong trabaho, pero sa panahon nga ikay magtrabaho niya, makagunit kasi mo sweldo niya, mapalit kag pagsud-an nimo, makaingon jud ang kuwang kayo ang sweldo nimo 20,000, tanaw no 20,000 gani kay kuan ra ubos ra gyapon na. So kay buta na to ang national family living wage for a family of 5 to decently live is 1,050 kapin per month, per day dapat na sweldo, diba? So that's gonna be 26,000 if you multiply nimo by 26 days if in 1 month. And that's just decent, wala pa na ang pag-eskwela sa mga anak and everything. So kana gato ang mga tao nga usually ang mga pobre ra mag-igo, pero for example once the political space for you to release your dissent is getting smaller ba, would you wait nga wala na lang political space kaya di na jud ka makastorya ever nga nata kay mga points, nata kay ganahan points nga i-express, grievances nga i-express, pero wala mo na express kay nahadlok ka. So when man ka maka-express ana, diba? Once the political space is gone, kay tungod wala ka ni istorya. So muna gingon nga unsa man atong gihuwat kung dili karon kanusa, diba? Kung dili kita kinsa man. Ana. nya kana you have kuan mo dawat jud nga kuan hadlock man jud hadlock jud siya di man tamo it doesn't make it any less scary if you deny it pato na ni mga murag sila Andres Bonifacio kiwa man sila nga bangis or violent ang kuan Spanish nga government ngano ni sukol man sila si Macario Sakay ngano ni sukol man sa panahon sa kuan sa Americans kibaw siyang grabe man magpatay ang kuan binaranggay magpatay ang Amerikano sa panahon sa pag-occupy nila sa kuan Philippines ngano ni sukol man sila nga kibaw silang hadlok di ba so kana we have to realize nga na may buhi nga revolution nga nasa Pilipinas karon na buhi nga revolution is just like imagine na ang katipunan murag naka sa time sa Spanish era ba ang katipunan nakibisog dira na ang katipunan it exists although lahi na siyang form karon lahi na ang underground movement karon pero kita as legal activists kita naputay atong mga rights to express our dissent kanang inana ba it's still nagyapoy continuing revolution karon sa Pilipinas and we want genuine change sa atong society and we can only achieve that through action and not inaction so kana I hope sa mga tao nga mahadlo kay one is to find a way to overcome that fear. It's either through integrating with the masses, withdraw ka og power from other people or from your experiences with the masses. At the same time, i-strengthen mo ang imong resolve nga and understanding sa dagan sa history nga kani nga time karon sa Pilipinas historical ni siya kay naay nagdagan nga revolution that we can help or we can understand ba and we can help it by voicing out our grievances diba so kana i-understand na nato as individuals and I hope that will help push you nga mo fight for genuine social change.
Those are really nice and I feel na that can be applied to me as well. Like to be honest, I don't
Yan naman.
like in a sense I don't go to like protests and stuff because ma-anxious ko sa mga tao.
Yeah, understandable man. Pero kana ba murag when you think about it baka murag at first siguro karon kay dili pa ikaw ang maigo pero let's put this at a perspective nga magpakahilom ang mga tao, di ba? Mabot ang point nga murag tungod sa kahilom sa mga tao wala na mo ning dako ang power sa mga nasa seat of power. Karon they can abuse anyone they like. Matimingan lang kanila, matripingan lang kanila. Di ba? Wala na kay mabuhat. Like wala. Kay tungod nagpakahilom naman tanan. So, do we wait for that time to come? Do we wait for or do we just wanna wait and sit and let other people do the fighting for us even though we know that kaya man nato at some point. Pero gets siya na grabe mo pud ka hadlok pud. Pero manang it's something to think about. Kay ako kay ang family niya to mag-US. Ako kay murag I chose to stay kay kung mato US, what do I do there? Make money, buy shoes, pero unsa may gamit now sa society na am I just gonna be someone I have cool shoes, but ang society kay nangamatay mga farmers, but I have cool shoes. Ooh. Ba? It's something I can't stomach. It's something murag. Pa rin ako kung ako'y gamit sa society kay dili ko ganahan nga ako kami society. Dili ganahan ko something but that's just me. Don't impose that on yourself because that's just me.
Yeah.
Pero kana ingat ko sa parents niya. Kuan lang, pag-support lang drug monetary, pagpadag kwarta na basta you earn money ako kay mo. Sa man lang kwarta nga ang kailangan mo dito kay mga people nga mo kuan mo help. So muna ang ako as individually.
Those are very interesting. Like coming from you, I kind of like learned a lot of things here. Yeah, makahuna-huna sad ko na.
Like kana storya og mga tiguwa nga kuan aktivista makaana ka murag grabihan in like experience sa kinabuhi. Nga mabilib pag samot kay hantod karon kinaigbiso gyapon sila. And it's something you would want to emulate as a person.
Yeah, everyone's been saying it's really, really strong, especially like the people I know. The people I know, they were like activists for like half a decade now. It still shocks me, but not in a bad way. They're still going. Like, wow, that's a nice feat, guys. Keep it up. My entire voice was like wasted the entire 2016. Okay, actually, I've never been a supporter of Duterte ever since, and I was like convincing my friends like, no, don't go for him. More, I felt a wave of tiredness, bitaw, and then I just stopped altogether ranting about it.
I mean, yeah. Pero kana bitong kana si Duterte dagan mo kay siya kuhan ko, dagan siya promises, dagan jud na ilad niya. And na siya way of using kanang words sa normal people but to sound like he is genuine.
Yeah, but and those are all very really, really trying times. But I would actually want to thank you for all of this. Like, thank you, Jud, sa kaning at time you've spent with us.
Wala na problema
The key takeaway I could probably get from this is like protesting is my right, it's everyone's right, and
Yeah.
then wata gitudloan, and that's a very understandable factor. But again, we should probably learn to call out injustices that's happening to other people, because if it could happen to them, it could also happen to us.
And more than that, it will happen to us at some point in time, Jud.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, where it's everywhere. Sometimes you just don't see it, but it's just there. Kanang corruption pa lang kanang imong tax money, imong money nga gibutang nimo sa PhilHealth kay igo ra ibulsa sa kuan sa politiko. Sugod ka na, sugod ka. Nako nga portion sa imong sweldo ikuan ra. Dili man na it's just there, but sometimes kalimtan sa people tungod sa kadaghan lagi na huna silang kinabuhi ba.
And all this will be solved if the root problems are like still there.
Kana apil na sa kuan, ang apil na sa root cause mo na giingon nga kung aktivista ka ay kung kanang giingon nilang imperialismo, feudalismo or bureaucrata kapitalismo, or in English kay imperialism, feudalism o bureaucrat capitalism kanang corruption ang paggamit. Bureaucrat capitalism ang paggamit sa government or pag-run sa government as a negosyo. Diba? For example, si Mark Villar, he makes highways through DPWH because he's a secretary, but he makes highways for his subdivisions. Diba? Nag-push sila og rice tarification law in order to push or to put more imported rice in the market kaya para mampobre ang farmers so they can buy farmers' lands when they are forced to sell it. Kana. So, when I giving a bureaucrat capitalism, butang na to si kanang si Dennis Uy kay close ni Duterte. At the same time si Duterte mag-create og mo help ni Dennis Uy kay para padako siyang negosyo. Manang gitawag nga bureaucrat capitalism, and not only kanang mga inanang connections at the same time na pa corruption. Diba? Manang ikuhan. Next kay feudalism, ang pag-angkon sa daghang landlords sa Utah. Most for example sa Dole kanang Utah sa Mindanao kadaghanan magtanom sila pinya and everything, pero mostly na kay pang-import na. Dili na siya para sa mga Pilipino. That's to serve the foreign powers or US and China most prominently sa kuan in the recent times. Munay feudalism, wala ga angkon og yuta ang farmers, igo ra sila gabaligya og kuan labor, if farm worker sila or kuan magbaligya sila sa ilang giani if farmer sila, di ba? Muna ang kuan. Pero ang gaangkon gyapon sa yuta kay mga landlords, Hacienda Luisita, kana mga lapad nga mga kuan sana sugar farms dira sa Negros, which is kuan different families po nang gatunga-tunga ana. Yasol kay imperialism ang kanang kuan control sa foreign countries sa ato. Ngano makaingon man ta na sila control, for example kanang kuan walay kada palang pag-train daan sa US Army sa atong kuan sa atong army, di ba? Lain kay US Army kanya itudlo nimo kay pro-Filipino, of course pro-US yun itudlo ana. At the same time they can have military bases in our countries when it is even illegal sa atong constitution, di ba? Kanang mga inanagod mga things, and people just don't notice it tungod kay busy man sila everyday lives, di ba? Tungod pud kay embedded na pud kay siya sa tong culture nga it looks normal, pero muna siya.
As what we have discussed sa no, kanang activism calls for justice for political prisoners, protection of indigenous lands, and such. So, terrorists kay para lang mo instill og fear sa mga tao.
Pero yeah, given that, if makita ni mga kalisod sa mga tao, especially sa mga pobre dito sa Pilipinas, ano di mamakalisod. Especially the poor, they're the core victims of every government.
Oh, sila may kapadagan sa economy. Like, take the rich people out, the economy is still running. Diba? Take take the rich people out, the economy is still alive. Magdagan gyapon ang Pilipinas, magandar gyapon, mag-produce gyapon tag products, di ba? Yeah, majority of the workers are ang katrabaho ana tanan, workers, farmers, ang producers kay mga the poor people. That's why dili dapat nato i-romanticize silang pagkapobre nga murag they're poor, so we should fight for them. Dili inanang idea, but ang idea niya kay mutan-aw ta og usa ka society nga kinsa may producers, kinsa may namingkamot or nag-produce for our country. It's the poor, it's the farmers, it's the workers. Sila ang ga-produce but they live in poverty when they shouldn't. When they have natay capacity nga buhion sila. So it's not just about tungod kay luoy sila, but tungod kay it's not dili ni siya the kind of society that our producers deserve, diba? It's not just about romanticizing or being a philanthropist or altruist ba nga ganang kamutabang sa pobre, pero muingon ka dili deserve ni sa pobre kay dako man sila contribution sa atong society. We should nourish them, we should help them. Dili lang siya tungod kay naluoy ka, ba tungod kay muni ang dapat, muni ang sakto, kana ba?
And also, one of the things na remember dyan na ko, Kuya Kay, katong niingon ka na if naay grievances na ganahan erase mga injustice, unsaon na lang kung mahadlok ka mo raise. Maunang giingon na if not now, then when? O if di ikaw, kinsa man. So, which I personally also agree kay if dili ka muli kay di sad siya masugdan. Yeah.
And there's gonna come a time nga dili na nimo siya pwede mabuhat tungod kay nagpakahilom ka before.
Yes, Kuya. And sa mga mahadlok kay I hope na ma-overcome ninyo ang fear by drawing power from other people or experiences with the masses and understand also the history.
Kana. Kuan kailangan mo ka magtuon gud kay para na po kay solid nga foundation ba on nga no mo fight man ka for something. Lain kay mo fight for something kanya wala kay kalibutan unsa na. So kana join educational discussions, join sa may laing karon basta educational discussions man kasagaran. Apilo ginana kay anak ka makasabot niya. Of course, lain kay makibisog kawa kasabot no. So sabta ano dapat makibisog ka.
So for the last takeaway I could probably get from this is because if people are like silent, as you mentioned, if people are silent, mudako ang seat of power. Actually, this one is one I really agree with. Like once the government gets used to people getting silent, it
Yeah.
just paves the way. It
For
paves the
more
way.
abuses.
Yeah, kana gid.
Kaya ko ano kanang sa Chinese good nga encroachment of our islands. Nangilog sila sa tong islands kita wat ani sukol kay ambot to sa kuan, you know, trying to gain the favor of China man itong president. So asa ni sukol sa Indonesia ba to or Malaysia, I don't know which nagkabali-bali basta si katong kuan usa ka president dito pag abot sa Chinese vessel gitirahan nila missile shoot like people died, like Chinese people died. Gitirahan lag kuan gibombahan lang warship. Ya wala ra gibot ang China, wala ra nakagira. Diba? Ya karon wala pa naangko nilang kuan mga islands tungod kay nisukol sila. 'Di ba? So
Oh.
I think Indonesia na.
Yeah, correct, Deka. Indonesia.
Kung sa pangalan ng president nila maglibog yung sa pangalan ng president.
Ah, yeah, si President Joko Widodo.
Joko Widodo. Kana siya gibombahan nilang kuan. So may kay ngano nangilabot man sila sa mga territory. But see, wala may gira, which is as opposed to the fear mongering nga padagan sa atong presidente nga wala magagira pala sa China, hala kusig sulungon ta blah blah and everything, pero ang Indonesia gibombahan na yung nahitabong sa banang gira dira kana. So kung mapahilom jud ka iduot po jud ka na.
Yeah, that's true, Beto. And it's been very, very insightful. Mga takeaways good on it. Very, very insightful. And I think this wraps up our entire conversation for today.
Yeah.
That's a really, really good and very enlightening conversation with you, especially me. I learned a lot from this. So thank you, Howell Villacrusis, for joining us today and lending us your time, of course, as we talked about the hidden truths behind activism.
Ita, this night has a really interesting takeaway, and for STAND, as an organization, has joined and fought along with the people and the masses during repressive times. Through collective efforts, we have accomplished many battles and fights. STAND will always be with the people with unceasing support.
And I feel like the other things Stan could take away from this now is like we as a collective, we could probably even learn from this very podcast and every other podcast that we have. We could really, really learn a lot from this kid, like how we could approach the masses even more. But I would also like to thank to the Carolinians for listening to our episode today. To access more of our podcast episodes, make sure to follow us on Spotify at Mike Stand and like our Facebook page at Student Alliance for Nationalism and Democracy, University of San Carlos. Stay tuned next month where we talk about New Year, new leaders, and then you may send your questions to us on our Facebook page. This has been a really good night. This is your host, Chen Enriquez,
And Denise Rosal.
closing this very podcast.
And
We're very
remember, the greatest victories can be achieved with the mobilization of the Filipino masses and its students.